All right, folks, who's ready for a great show today? Hillary and I are taking a late summer stroll down the Walk of Fame. This is the podcast where we bring in the actors and filmmakers onto the show and ask them about their creative craft and see as they can walk the walk, can they actually talk the talk? Either way, you win. Oh my goodness. Hello, Hillary. How are you?
Hello, Bryan. And if I could be permitted to quote the great Jimmy Kimmel right now, this show may not be important, but it's important. We live in a country that allows us to do this show.
E- Exactly. Well said. And speaking of a great show, oh my God, Hillary, we have a fantastic, a legendary, an intercontinental champion of television and film coming on to Walk of Fame today. Everything from Saturday Night Live to Seinfeld, Forrest Gump, Men in Black, and oh my God, Lars von Trier. Give it up for Siobhan Fallon Hogan. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's so good to be here. We're going to have some fun, talk with you today. Let's start off. Growing up in the small town of Casanova, nestled in that smack dab middle of New York State, when did you first feel, Siobhan, the pull of the stage? Was it a thunderclap moment or more like a quiet love affair that slowly and inevitably led you to the bright lights and the applause of strangers?
Honestly, it was like in my blood, apparently, since from birth, because I got to kindergarten at Salem High Grammar School in Syracuse, and there was a there was a presentation or an assembly, and it was for St. Patrick's Day, and they said, "Does anybody know how to do the Irish jig?" And I thought it was like a rhetorical question, but they were like trying to say that to bring out the assembly, and I was like, "I do." But I really didn't. I just knew like, how did you know, like we used to pretend at home. So I got up on stage and I was like, did it in front of the whole school. And then I just kind of always was in the grammar school plays, the high school plays. I just always loved being on stage.
Oh, I love that you just grew up in that middle of New York and that was the moment for you. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
I love that.
Siobhan, I just saw your episode in the current season of Only Murders in the Building,
Oh,
which was so
I'm
much
not in
fun.
kindergarten anymore.
Yes, well, no spoilers, Siobhan, no spoilers, but it's such a cool episode because it shows doorman Lester's entire tenure at the Arconia, and you
Yes.
Mrs. Morris, and you always appear with your son whipping
Yes.
off a few zingers as you whiz through the lobby. So
Yes. Yes. Well, it's so crazy, Hillary, because I lived in New York City for a long time, and I had my three kids in the city till my oldest was in third grade. So, I was like really good friends with my doorman. So it was just so familiar when I did the episode because I was like, this is the way I live my life. Like we used to have this doorman named Rafael Maldonado, and inevitably he'd always walk in, any time from spring to late fall, and he'd have his transistor radio, and he'd be like basically don't talk to me because he was listening to the Yankees, and he'd always say, "Let me tell you something, Siobhan. Let me tell you something. They're gonna win." They're gonna win. So I'd always say to my kids growing up when they would be going to school, like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I'm gonna flunk this test." I say, "Let me tell you something. You're gonna win. You're gonna win." So, but no, I literally hung out with my doorman all the time. So doing that episode was like Back to the Future.
That's great. That's taking real life and putting it into the craft.
Exactly, exactly. Which is what you have to do, right? I guess
Yeah, that's what
apparently.
a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and that's such a great, great show to work on. I mean, John Hoffman, who's the creator of, with the show with Steve Martin, I did summer stock theater with him in 1985 in Killington, Vermont.
What do you
So,
remember what play you did?
oh, I do. I was okay. Well, the way it went was this. There was two shows going on at all times. So I was at Killington Ski Hill performing in the lodge, Peppermint Patty and Charlie Brown, while he was at while he was at White River Junction being Che in Avita. And then we were both together in this Cole Porter musical, and then in Sweet Charity, I was Charity. And he was whoever the character is that sang, "I love to cry at weddings, oh love to cry at weddings." But all of course I would do is fool around on stage. So I would like write on my teeth like hi, or like just do anything to make him laugh. So we've been friends for like, how many years is that? 35 years, 40 years.
Oh my. And what a wonderful reunion.
Yeah, exactly. What a generous producer.
Yeah, and you talking about that and you talking about summer stock and all the films you've been in, your resume reads like a buffet of genres. There's comedy, there's horror,
Oh,
there's drama, sometimes all within a single performance. Is there
there's
yeah, is there still a corner of the cinematic world you're itching to explore, some role or genre that has remained
let's
maddeningly
see.
out of reach?
I need to do reality TV.
Oh,
I'm only kidding. I'm only
oh,
kidding. No, but I was pegged for a very, very long time as just comedic. And it was only because Lars von Trier didn't know my work. And thankfully for Avi Kaufman, the greatest casting director, she brought me in for a serious role in his film Dancer in the Dark. And I had to cry, and I was playing this prison guard. I was auditioning for the prison guard. And thankfully, my daughter Bernadette was a really hard baby, and she was up all night crying and had an ear infection. I was like, I have an audition. What am I going to do? Thank God she cried all night, because I was like crying tears of exhaustion when I went to the audition. And that's how I got that part, which then broke me out of the just comedic, roles. So that was a real, thank God for Lars von Trier, who then ended up being, Zentropa, Lars's company. They ended up being co-producers on my film Rushed.
Yeah,
So I've had this great connection to Denmark all these years.
that's amazing.
Yes, thank God for them.
Yeah.
Thank God for the Danes. Thank God for the Danes. To
I
the
love
Danes and
that.
John Hoffman.
Yeah, to the game of games. My
Siobhan,
good.
well, you and I first met a couple of years ago when you wrote, produced, and starred in Shelter and Solitude. So,
Yes.
you've had these forays into independent film yourself as the main creator. So, talk to us about that experience as well.
Well, Hillary, this is what happened. My third child was going off to college, and I thought, what am I going to do with myself? I'm not domesticated. I can't cook. I can't, I'm terrible in the in the four walls. So I said, well, I've been in this business long enough. Maybe I could write a movie. And my first movie was actually Rushed, which was with Robert Patrick, Jake Weary, Perry Gilpin from Frasier, all friends of mine. And then Shelter and Solitude, I had a moment of psychosis when I literally I wrote it, and I raised the money with my husband and my son, and we started shooting that movie 1 month after Rushed was released. So it was, first of all, it was great because it was COVID. It was, it wasn't great because it was COVID, because you had to test everybody, and if one person got COVID, forget it, the whole crew would be shut down, the whole shoot would be shut down. But it was honestly great. My daughter was in it. She's now an actress. She's going to the Lee Strasberg School in New York. But it was a great lesson for the kids, because my son Peter is now producing movies. He's doing a movie called Into the Black, that is this hilarious movie about Jersey gambleaholics, and he's got like a star stud. It's like Peter Green, Kathy Moriarty, uh, um, Federico Castelluccio, all these really great character actors. So it's kind of like I, passed it on to the kids, which is one thing I'm really grateful for. And it's awesome to do your own work, other than, I can say that now that I'm far away from it. It's pretty intense, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah. No, that must be. And having like this almost Partridge family like of creators and actresses and singers,
Yeah,
do you all feed off of each other?
we feed off each other, but I established rules that didn't work. Like when my son plays the young cop in Shelter and Solitude, I was like, okay, here's the deal. I'm giving you this part. You're great for the part, but I'm not nocturnal. When I'm in bed, no one wakes me up after 10 o'clock. Inevitably, like 2 o'clock in the morning. Mom, really good idea. How about we say skedaddle? But so it was like, your family, you can break the rules, I guess. But no, it's great. I was telling you guys, I just got back from Kansas. I've been taking Shelter and Solitude, the movie, around to colleges. We played it at Notre Dame and Fordham, Catholic University, University of Mary. So because it's a lot of the colleges are interested in it, because it's about a guy in death row. So the criminology departments and the carceral programs are interested in that movie. So it's had a lot of a life to it, thank God.
No, that's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. And
So the
just
Middle East, weirdly, we have these international sales as well.
right, right. And just going back earlier in the interview about you started off in comedy and everything like that. Bless you. As
That's my
someone
husband.
as someone who has made millions of people laugh, what
I thought you were saying
makes
millions of dollars. I was like, I have? Wait a minute, what?
no, you have. You've made millions of people laugh. No, don't sell that short. What makes you laugh? And not the polished stuff, but the thing that gets you every time. Is it the joke, the pratfall, or the absurd little human tick that never fails to crack you up?
It's so funny. I mean, my kids really strike me really funny because they're insane. And I have a friend who from Buffalo, New York, who I met 1,000 years ago in New York City. And his name is Peter King. And I love the type of people that are really dry and I'll say to him something like, "So, do you like this new jacket?" And he'll just pause for so long. But they say laughter's from like the anticipation. He'll be like, "You're like, did you hang up? Like, are you still on this? Like, can you hear me? Can you see me?" But I love, love, love. And then of course there's certain actors that I just think are hilarious. Will Ferrell, Steve Martin, um, Diane Wiest. There's people like certain um, actors that I just love.
I love that. I love knowing what, somebody like you, what makes you laugh, and thank you for telling me. That's amazing.
Yes,
Dry humor goes a long way.
it does. It
It
does.
does. Laughter is very healing. But Siobhan, speaking about laughter, we've got to hear about your experiences on SNL as a cast member, the 91-92 season 17,
Yes.
alongside, let me just list them off, and I may not even include everyone. Adam Sandler, David Spade, Kevin Nealon, Tim Meadows, Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, Al Franken, and the late, great Chris Farley. And then being there for the 50th anniversary celebration.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It.
So okay, so well the 50th was this year, and of course that's like going to your high school reunion on steroids because it's like the pressure is on. And the crazy part is when you get to a certain age, you're like, I thought I was just at the reunion, but that was the 40th. 10 years goes in a flash. So I mean the reunion was the 50th was fantastic. I mean, from start to finish, first they were at Radio City Music Hall with Cher and like these just amazing bands and Bill Murray singing. And I mean it was and my husband's great about saying, bring one of the kids. So my son Peter came to the 40th and my daughter Sinead came, so she was like over the moon. And so it was awesome. And when I was on the show, Chris Farley, we were great friends. And he actually dated my good friend, Aaron Maroney, who ended up being the producers on both my movies, Rushed and Shelter Soldier. We were friends for, she was Lauren's assistant at the time, ended up being a producer, dating Chris. And she sadly passed away from suddenly a brain aneurysm 2 years ago. But, it's just all these friendships that you kept over the years. And I mean, Adam, Chris Rock, they're just really, really great guys. And who knew, that they just end up just being gigantic in the entertainment industry. But even now, if I see Adam Sandler, like he just filmed a movie in New Jersey, and my son was in it, and he's just a great guy. But I mean, not to say, look, listen, it was intense, and it's pressure, but it's like every week there's a different host. Every week it's a different story, and you're with your friends, and it's hilarious. Just the situation is hilarious because it's so tense. It's like and then being live. You could think on a Friday night. The way it goes is you go in Monday, meet whoever the host is going to be. Everything's nocturnal. Everything's always at night. Tuesday you write all afternoon and night. Wednesday they choose what sketches they're going to be in, and it could be like 20 sketches. But then Friday night, you have a rehearsal at like 6 o'clock. 11 it's mainly, technical and rehearsing, make sure everything goes okay. At 11 p.m., everybody gets called into Lorne Michaels' office, and he whittles it down to 10 sketches. So you could go from thinking you're going to be a superstar to, oh, shoot, my sketch got cut. And then you got to roll with it, and you got to be ready for a live audience. So, it's crazy.
That's so impressive. And do you find yourself still watching here and there SNL?
I find myself watching here and there on, at reunions, but also, people send you stuff or they'll make clips, everything's, I guess, short form now these days. And, people are always sending like the Brady Bunch sketch or the sorority girls or, different sketches like that. And yeah, but I mean, honestly, I didn't even know who the new cast was. When we went to the show, for the Radio City was Friday night with all the music, and there was a whole row in front of me. And I said to my daughter, "Now, who are these people?" She's like, "Mom, that's the cast." I didn't even know. But the boy, that Marcellus, he's the nicest kid. The boy who's so well known in the show now, Marcelo.
Yeah, Marcelo Hernandez.
He's a great guy. He's such a great guy. We were standing by the candy counter. He's like, "I'll get you something. I'll get you something." And he's like, "You have to meet my mother. You have to meet my mother." And I'm thinking, "Oh, that's great." His mother comes out of the bathroom. Meanwhile, I mean, I could be her mother. She's beautiful, and she raised a great kid. He's a great, great guy. So, I might not know them, but when I got to know a few of them at the show and over the weekend of that, the reunion weekend, he's just a great guy.
Oh, that's so
Talking
good.
about fun sketches real quick, did anyone send you or did you see the one called The White POTUS, which was the spoof on The White Lotus?
No. Was it funny?
Okay, you have to see it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So funny.
Okay, I
Yeah.
will definitely.
It's got John Hamm. I don't think it was the night John Hamm hosted, but it was just hysterical.
Oh my gosh.
I really recommend it.
I'll watch it tonight for sure.
That's amazing. And I know you've touched on this just a little bit earlier, but you've gone from SNL to Seinfeld quips to collaborating with Lars von Trier on some of his darkest and most haunting films. What was it about that partnership between your own comic precision and his uncompromising intensity, or vice versa, that sparked, and how did you know it wasn't just a one-off experiment?
That's such a good question. Actually, my first movie was with him was Dancer in the Dark, and then
Yeah.
Dogville, and then The House that Jack Built with Matt Dillon, who I've actually done 3 films with. And I remember when I flew out. Now, for Dancer in the Dark, I had 2 of my kids. I didn't have the third kid. I always brought my kids with me everywhere. And I remember flying out over Denmark and thinking, I am going to be back here. I just know it. It was just this weird, fabulous connection. First of all, Lars is very funny, extremely funny. And so I used to, he has a phobia of traveling. So I said, don't travel because people think you're fascinating and deep and dark, and you don't want them to know the truth because he's just the greatest guy. And so, but also he was such a great director and made me feel so comfortable in when he would direct, if you were doing a serious scene, he kind of keeps the camera rolling and he sort of talks to you in this quiet voice and he's like, all right, now, you do it again, and keeps the camera rolling. He's very, very intimate director. And also, I learned so much from him as far as like how to run a set and how to run a film shoot, which is completely different from like a US or Hollywood film shoot because or Hollywood style, whether it's in Hollywood or not, like New York or wherever. And the way I run my sets now, I try to emulate that, which is almost like a play. Like every person on the crew is equally important. So there's no like hierarchy or allowing for divas or, that top of the line that we have here, like, the director, the producers, they sit over there. And then the prop guy, the wardrobe woman, whatever, sit different, but everybody's equal. It's because we're all part of the same project and you want everybody to be happy. And he just ran the happiest sets. And also he wanted everybody to get to know each other. So in Dogville, which was right after 9/11, everybody lived in an inn together. And same with not Dancer in the Dark, but the house that Jack built, we all lived in this really cool inn in Sweden. and Dancer in the Dark was Denmark. But so you really know, your fellow actor, everybody, all the meals together. It's like summer stock only on film.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
just great to hear somebody like Lars von Trier is like a comedic genius almost, but then he does his work and it's just like
Yes.
what's the parallel? What's the connection there of people who make dark films are actually really funny and sweet? There's something like
Well,
that.
yeah. I mean, I think there's something really. I always think it's fascinating, and I tried to, do with Dancer in the Dark. I mean, pardon me, with Rushed and Shelter in Solitude. My films is when really horrible things happen to funny people. I think it makes it raises the sadness and the tragedy, because you're not used. Funny people aren't used to being crushed, or if they're crushed, they don't want to show it. You know what I mean?
Right. Hear you. Good answer.
Yeah.
Well, Siobhan, I bet you're talking about Lars a lot, but I bet you have a wish list of directors that you would like to work with. So who are they and how do they match up with your own sensibilities or
Oh
areas
my
you want
gosh.
to expand into?
Okay. Well, let me see now. I love Sofia Coppola's work. I mean, I think Bradley Cooper's done a great job as a director. I'm actually going to Guatemala, which another great thing about this business is the places you get to go. I remember I did a movie with Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine, Alan Arkin, may he rest in peace. And in like, oh, I don't know, 8 years ago. And I remember Morgan Freeman said, well, the greatest part about this business is the places it takes you. So I'll be going. There was a priest named Stanley Rother who was killed in Guatemala in the 80s. So I'm going down there to do a movie in November, and then I'm going to Italy to do a movie, a Lionsgate film, in February. So I'm like, just to be able to travel to these fabulous places is unbelievable.
Well, looking at IMDb, we never know what's right, but we want to get it accurate from you. So there's maybe some of these are the ones you're alluding to, but I'm going to toss out some titles and you can. Okay, so one of them is A Comedy of Errors, great title. One Stupid Thing, Drink and Be Merry, and then you mentioned this film before, Into the Black, that your
Into
son.
the Black, yes. So Into the Black, my son is producing, a guy named Anthony Curry's directing, and it is this. We moved out of New York City when my oldest daughter was in third grade. So my younger kids really raised in New Jersey, and it is a hilarious comedy, but it's kind of a Rocky story too, where it's like three low life Jersey trotter gamblers, and they start off. So it's a guy in his 60s, a guy in his 40s, a guy in his 20s. My son's Peter is the guy in his 20s, and I play the one night stand of the oldest guy, and we have a daughter from that one night stand. And it's just these guys scamming and doing anything to get a racehorse. And they have filmed, my son's gotten like locations like Meadowlands, Monmouth Racetrack. It's all over New Jersey. And it's Peter Green from Pulp Fiction, Kathy Moriarty from Raging Bull, Federico Castellucci of Sopranos. So he has this incredible cast. And it's so funny.
As a performer who has spent years not just acting, but teaching and reflecting on the craft, directing, is there a single piece of advice that you carry with you, like a bit of wisdom that was once passed to you and that you now find yourself handing down like an heirloom to others, whether it be on Rushed or another film?
Well, it's funny because like I was saying, my daughter's in acting school now, and there's so much rejection that comes with it, but you have to just stay the course. My mother used to say, don't worry, cream rises to the top. And I was like, when's it gonna rise? But anyway, so I think you know, to make your own work when there's downtime, so just don't sit around and wait for someone to create the work. Early on, the way I got on Saturday Night Live and Seinfeld was I wrote a one-woman show. I didn't write it because I wanted to write it. I wrote it because I was desperate. No one else would cast me in anything. So I just wrote all the characters that I would love to play if I was cast. And people would say, "Oh, I really understood the theme of that. It was really unbelievable." I was like, "There's no theme. I just did like 8 characters that I wanted to play." So and then I took my money from being a receptionist in a law firm and put the show on dark nights, on the Monday nights in New York City in an off Broadway theater. So people thought, oh, she's doing a one-woman show in an off-Broadway theater. I'm like, no, I rented the lobby out of the of an off-Broadway theater. So it was all kind of smoke and mirrors. And then like reviewers came and people came. So you can't let other people stop you or tell you no if you have to follow your dream.
That's amazing. And I love that you just like you put yourself into that work and it was a one woman show, which is, you creating you're an orchestra into one person. So
So insane. And I would basically do that. Like I figured I would do one woman shows just about every 10 years. Like after I had my kids, I did mine in my late 20s, my late 30s, like and then because every time there was a lull, I would do another one woman show. And it's like dating. As soon as you start to date, you get a lot of dates. It's like as soon as you do a one person show, then movie opportunities come up. You know what I mean? So it was because it's good for the spirit. You know what I mean? Then you don't exude like desperation when you go in to like get for an audition or because you're working. You know what I mean? And they don't have to know who cast you. You cast yourself.
yeah. Would you bring that one woman show back for a reunion tour?
I don't, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, oh Lordy. I have dream, like the actor's nightmare. I'll be like, I have a show and I'm supposed to bring it back and I can't remember my lines. So, I would like I've got a lot lined up in the next 6 months or so, but you have to be in really good shape. So because physically really, really demanding. So I would do it, but I got to get myself together. I got to get my act together physically.
Siobhan, what you described with what you did, and I love it. It's the smoke and mirrors. You're in the lobby. Reviewers
Oh
are
my
coming.
gosh. Yeah. Handing out flyers and New York City TKTS, like off-Broadway show, $9.99. People are like, what? And then they get there like, you could grab a folding chair, but they're in there already. Like, they're like, well, I might as well stay. Yeah. And then I did it out in San Diego. I did it in LA. And when I did it in LA, I was teaching English as a second language. And so my first audiences were all Japanese students or Hispanic students, and hardly really. And I did do one silent piece of a fisherman catching a fish, and basically, they were like, "Well, we understand this one," because I was not a very good teacher.
That's pretty
Well,
good.
I mean, what you're describing and how you did this and to really get roles from it at the very beginning, it's like a roadmap for other actors to get seen. But the landscape has changed so much. I mean,
Oh,
what would be different about if you were starting out right now?
well,
What
it's
would
funny.
you do
Like, as I
differently,
said,
or would that be the same good recipe?
yeah. I mean, here's the deal. I mean, it's so much easier for these kids. They have phones. It's like you can make a film. You know what I mean? Pick up your phone, which has a fabulous camera on it, and write a short, film it, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, submit it to a film festival. You know what I mean? Don't sit around going, I remember I had a roommate once who said, I can't write anything right now because there's a writer's strike. I was like, no, you can. But you don't have to sit around waiting for someone to cast you or get an agent, which is, it's this massive catch 22 when you start off because you're like, gee, I'd love to be in a play, but I can't get into a Broadway or an off-Broadway play unless I have an agent, and I can't get into an agent unless I'm in a play. So it's like it used to be this crazy circle of like, how's this going to happen? I mean, I got my equity card because it was bitter beyond freezing New York City day, and I'm from Syracuse, so I was like, it's not that cold. And there was an audition for a children's theater. They were called TYA, Theater for Young Audience contract, and that's what a lot of people would get in the union. And so it was so cold and it was a musical. And I was like, my voice is okay, but it's not great. And I went and I auditioned and I got my union card being the bear. I was a I was a honey bear to teach little kids about the four basic food groups, which I couldn't even remember what they were. So I used to write them on my arm. I'd be like, there are four basic food groups. And that's how I got my union card.
It's a beautiful
That's how I became
story.
a union
It is.
gal.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm always curious because again, your resume of work from Oscar-winning movies to some of the best little moments in films that everybody remembers. Is what film do most people come up to you on the street and say a line for you, like they recognize you? And to the antithesis of that, what is the movie you wish more people recognized you for that don't?
So it depends on honestly where I am. Like being I was just out in the Midwest and they'll be like Men in Black or New in Town. Like people in the Midwest love New in Town. I did with Harry Connick Jr. and Renee Zellweger. Now, a lot of times in New York, people are like, oh, Lars von Trier. And then I know that they're really sophisticated. I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I act a certain way. Make sure I use the right fork. And but, a lot of people be Forrest Gump or, but I wish, naturally my own Shelter in Solitude, my film has like over 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and so does Rushed. But, it's what's rough about independent filmmaking is they have great reviews, those films, but you don't have the marketing budget that you do for a giant film. So when people see it, they're like, how do I not know about this film? So I wish that more people, I like last night, when I showed at universities, I say, don't tell your parents, and make sure you give a review on Amazon, and make sure you share it on Instagram. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I love that. And I've always got to ask, talking with you and knowing the body of work again, it strikes me that you have so many stories and you're a cinematic aficionado. And I don't say that lightly. And uh, if you need some time, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are there any moments or particular scenes from a movie that have always stuck with you that help shape your creative life?
Oh, films that I have seen.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember seeing Shirley MacLaine in Terms of Endearment when she
Oh,
goes to the counter and she's screaming for her daughter. And it's just like so pure, so real. And same with Diane Wiest, like in the Woody Allen movies, when she's like, don't speak, don't speak. I mean, just really authentic, fabulous performances. And um and Katharine Hepburn. I loved Katharine Hepburn. I actually did Katharine Hepburn on on SNL. But they were really emotionally uh fabulous actresses, but also trained, with diction, and which is a lot of the young actors don't have that now. So that's what I was telling my daughter, that I said, make sure you take a great voice class, because that's so important.
oh,
The body is
amazing.
the instrument, and the voice, you know what I mean? That you really want to capitalize on that.
Right. Now I know, now I want to go watch Terms of Endearment again. It's been years.
Yeah, actually, I didn't tell you this too. I wrote a play called Mother's Last Day, and we did a reading in New York. Patty Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond, Margaret Cohen, from Gossip Girls and so
Yeah.
many Broadway shows, Lila Robbins from Walking Dead, and of course, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and she's been in so many Broadway shows. Welker White, my daughter actually, Sinead, she's plays my niece in it. And but speaking of which, those like Lila Robbins, Margaret, Patty, they're very trained actresses, with great instruments and depth. So, and hopefully, it looks like that play, Mother's Last Day, it's a comedy about how my sisters and my aunt and my niece and I, and how we took care of my mother on her last day. It's very Irish Catholic comedy, but you're crying at the end because there's a lot of like rosaries, wine, fighting. But it looks like we may be doing that in Chicago. We're just kind of finalizing things next fall. So the plan is to like do it there, and then hopefully, as everybody hopes, bring it to Broadway.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
Well,
Yeah.
Siobhan, I wish we had some Irish whiskey to toast you. I don't, Bryan, do you have any handy?
You know what? It's downstairs. I got all the Irish whiskey
It's funny that you
downstairs.
say, because the people gave me. I'm looking. Wait, they gave me this County Cork 5 Farms single batch Irish cream as
Oh,
a present, and some Irish cookies. It's so funny. Like I must be like the leprechaun that gets to town. They're like, let's see, what can we give her for a gift? And it's like shortbread and a little plant with a 4-leaf clover. So yeah, isn't that funny? But no, I toast to you here.
oh
Toast to
yeah,
you.
absolutely. And also, I saw your cat joined us for a few minutes. That
That
was
was my
so.
dog. That was
Oh,
my
oh, that
dog.
was your. I just,
The poor thing.
I saw that. I just saw a tail, and it came back real quick.
That's Trudy. Trudy's about 150 years old in people years. She's 14 and she follows me everywhere. So I was like, oh, she's at the door, but she kind of knows her way in, and she's the best dog ever.
I love
But I
that.
used to have cats. I had Tiger, I had Mittens, and I had Bootsy. But they've gone to cat heaven. I got to get another cat. I got to get another cat. But I always feel like if I get one cat, I got to get two, and I'm not really up for it right now. I
I
got to wait
hear
till I
you.
stop traveling.
And now you're talking about drinks and everything. Now I want to know, like, since you're steeped in this Irish culture, what's the
Yeah.
most underrated Irish dish that you love to cook?
Oh my. Well, I'm a terrible cook, but I love Irish food. But I'll tell you what I love Irish baked goods. Now, pavlova is
Yes.
something that the Irish make that is spectacular. And I lived with a family in Ireland. I did a semester there way before people did semesters abroad in 1985, 4. No, 2, 82. And the Brady's. Get that. So they have 4 boys: Alan, Ronan, Niall, Derek. Niall is now one of Ireland's most accomplished, decorated sound editors. He did The Normal People. Yes, isn't that crazy? He did The Room. Yeah, isn't that so crazy?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That
but
is.
Curly, their mom, she majored in home economics, and so the dinners were exquisite, and the baked goods. And she was from Kilkenny. She went to the cooking school down there, and it was, oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. But Hillary, I have to tell you, you look like $1,000,000. You age backwards.
You know what? It's
You
all the drinking and drugs and smoking.
and rock and roll.
Because I was gonna say this when you're talking about SNL going back. I was like, yeah, and all the cocaine, but I didn't want
Oh
to.
my gosh, that's so great.
I didn't want to indict anyone, but we know that was big in the early '90s.
Oh, for some people.
That's amazing. But thank you so much, Siobhan, for
Absolutely.
joining us
It's been so
here.
fun. And I just love your office. I'm like, it's hard for me to concentrate. I'm sure I'm diagnosed with something, but I'm like, it's amazing. I love that Bob Dylan. You know,
Oh,
um,
you know what? That's not Bob Dylan.
oh, it's not. Who is
Is
it?
it
That's
Timothy Chalamet?
no, that's Tom. That's Tom Waits.
Oh,
Really?
That's
I
Tom
can't
Do
see
Waits.
a
that.
lot of people mistake him for Bob Dylan?
You know what? That or Al Pacino.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Tom
I
Waits,
was
and
going to
that's
tell you that there's a great bar in Kilkenny, Ireland called Dylan's, and they have pictures of Bob Dylan over. And who else do you have there?
that's Farley right here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought that was my pal, but I was getting insecure because I guessed wrong about Tom Waits.
Yeah, the Tom Waits, and these are the Night of the Living Dead girls right here.
Oh, it's awesome. It's
But yeah,
really
just
cool.
yeah, all sorts of fun stuff on this
It's
table. So
awesome. Well, listen, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
thank you, and tell everybody where they can find you over the next few months on TV, wherever.
Absolutely. If people follow me on my Instagram, Siobhan Fallon Hogan, and or I guess that's the best way. I'm terrible with social media. My son does for me. At Siobhan Fallon Hogan, and people can watch Shelter in Solitude on Amazon, and they can watch Rushed with an ED on Amazon as well. Both star Robert Patrick from The Terminator and so many other fabulous films and credits he has. He's just superb. Yellowstone. The guy's unbelievable. And Dan Castellaneta, Homer Simpson is in Shelter in Solitude. Perry Gilpin, my son Peter, my daughter Sinead Hogan. So yeah, so check those movies out.
And also
All
your
right.
episode on Only Murders this season.
Only
It's
Murders in the
episode
Building.
2
Yes. And
in
Into the
season
Black.
5
Yep,
as Mrs. Morris. So I
Yes.
can't miss on that one.
Thank you. Only Murders in the Building, and Into the Black will be out in the spring, and then these other movies I'm doing, I imagine will be out, next fall. So, a lot of great stuff is coming out. Thank God. Thank God. She's still kicking.
You
She's still kicking anyway.
We'll be
Siobhan is literally everywhere.
Thank you guys so much.